Welcome back to Dubbzi Bricks for episode 1 of building the UCS ONYX CINDER in Lego. I'm classing it as episode 1 as this is going to be the first episode where we're actually building our UCS model. Now, I've been doing a lot of thinking about this ship and where do I start and how big do I make it. Originally, I was thinking about minifig scale. However, minifig scale is gigantic. It is considerably bigger than the UCS Millennium Falcon, and I don't want to go that large on it. So I'm probably going to be keeping it to a little bit longer than what the Millennium Falcon is. So it's still going to enable me to get a lot of details in there. Somebody did suggest in the comments that the best place for me to start would be the cockpit and then work out the size from there. And I think that is a very good idea. I think by having the cockpit idea size worked out, then I will be able to proportionally do the rest of the ship. There are very few images I can find of the ONYX CINDER, so I am having to go just off of the limited information I do have for it, so it may not be perfectly scaled, but we do the best we can with the information that we do have available to us. Now, when I built this set, I was really impressed by this mechanism here, the way that these engines rotate just by the push of a lever, and that is something that I would like to keep in my UCS version. Now, whether or not this technique here will work on something that's considerably heavier, because the engines are going to be so much bigger, so they're going to be so much heavier, I'm not sure, but we'll have a play with it and just see what happens. Now, as I mentioned in the announcement video, I do want to do instructions for this build. Thanks to Mixer Bricks, he was the one that put the idea in my head. Thanks, Mike. We are going to be going down that route. So before I actually make anything, I am drafting it on Studio, and then afterwards I'm going to make sure that it works and yeah, go from there. The one problem I have found with Studio though is I started by working out the length of the ship, how big I was going to go for it. So I started doing the instructions for that, and then realised there was something further back that needed to be put inside, which meant I then had to redo half the instructions. So it is quite a long process doing the instructions, especially when you don't have that much experience like I have with Studio. So what I'm going to be doing first of all is I've already started experimenting with the instructions for just purely the engine mount, so what's going to be inside just this section just here. And I'm going to build that now just to find out whether or not I'm on the right track with the mechanism that I've got for this. Is it going to be okay? Is it going to do the job sufficiently? Now, with the mechanism, the one problem that it potentially has is the Technic beam at the moment is probably just one stud. Well, it's level with the engines, I think it is, or a brick above it. Now, the inside of this vessel is very cramped, and I want to be able to have a full interior on here. So I need to try and make it so that it's slimlined, so you can really get inside there. But also I want to have it so that I've got the Technic beam that operates the engines going through the centre, but as high up as possible. So I then need to somehow get the mechanism down to the engines themselves. So again, that is something I'm experimenting with. Hope that makes sense. If not, I'm sure it will do further on into the video. But anyway, I think that's enough talking. What we're going to do now is we're going to construct the rear section that I've already done the instructions on and just see how that's come out. here we have the engine and wing mounts for the rear of our UCS ONYX Cinder. And this bit here is a little bit tight at the moment. And I'm not sure whether or not it's because this is so loose or whether these are so tight inside the macaronis. And it's just something I'm just going to have to experiment with. And it's not until I get much further through the prototyping of this as to whether or not I find out whether it works or not. Now, the instructions, they seem to be going really well. Only a couple of minor tweaks I need on them, and that is the bricks that we've got here on each section. I need to bring them earlier into the instruction manual. I was finding that putting the studs there and the studs are then connected to this plate here is the wrong time. So yeah, just need to amend that. I was having to bend the plates to get the bricks in place, which you wouldn't do with a Lego set. Also, it could do with a plate going on there on each of the bottom of the cut plate, so we need to get that sorted as well. So I'm hoping that once I've built the rest of the fuselage up, this arm here will be resting on a plate. It'll have bricks either side, and I'm hoping that by firming that up, that will make it a little bit easier to operate. So yeah, we'll just experiment with that. I'm going to be doing a little bit more of experimenting before I go any further with the instructions. Doing Lego instructions is so time consuming on studio, or it is for me. I haven't had a great deal of experience with it in the past. So yeah, it's all a large learning curve as is building this vessel. And what I'm going to be doing, or the plan is, this beam here is going to carry on going along. And then as I get further forward, it's going to veer off to each side, and then it's going to carry on along. And the reason for that is on the front of the ONYX Cinder here, you've got a ramp. And if I was to build same design here at the front, when you got the ramp, you're going to be faced with this, so the minifigures wouldn't be able to get past. So I need to have a different design on the front that will enable me to have the front engines rotating connected to these ones without the mechanism getting in the way, basically. So hopefully that makes sense. Now, the other thing I need to work out is whether or not I do go for this style of ONYX Cinder, or whether I go for the version that you see at the end of episode 6 and then into 7 and 8. I really do like the version you see in 7 and 8. However, this was what I wanted to build. So I am hoping that I can still do it so you can transform one version into the other. However, it's these front engine mounts, whether or not it is going to be possible for me to have those so that you can remove the engines and connect them easily enough with them still being strong enough. So yeah, plenty of experimenting to go with. I'm going to be building the fuselage shape and design initially as the episode 7/8 version, and then I will start building out from it. And hopefully I'll be able to do it so it's removable panels, but if not, it will just be permanently attached on there. So yeah, there's a lot of experiment and a lot of decisions it's going to make. This certainly is going to be a very complex build. But anyway, that's enough talking. Let's get back to just mocking up a fuselage to go on the bottom here. As I said, it's not going to be the final version, but I just want to make sure that I can get this mechanism here to work on the front as well as the back. And I am seriously going to need to order in some Technic bricks the way I'm going at the moment, using so many pieces on here, let alone on our Tantive build. This is the potential size of the ONYX Cinder at the very bottom of it. Obviously, it is a little bit narrower at the bottom than the centre of the vessel. As you can see there, it comes out. Now, with the UCS Millennium Falcon, they have the Technic frame. They then have 2 layers of plates. Then they have a second one of these on top, and then it's all clipped together using this piece just here. However, if I can, I would like to have it so that the bottom has studs pointing away. That way I can plate off the bottom of the ship and then tile over the top of it and give it a nice smooth finish. So that's the way I'm considering doing it at the moment. The only other way I could do it is to have loads of clips on there and then the panels just attach on the bottom. However, I would like to try and make this as sturdy as possible. So I'm now just going to experiment with clipping these 2 frames together. It doesn't clip together exactly the same when you do them bottom to bottom like this, as opposed to when the studs are pointed in the same direction, due to where the stud alignment is within the brick. But anyway, let's try and attach these 2 together, and then we'll mount engine mounts onto the back of the fuselage, and then I can start working my way to the front with the mechanism. And here we have the two sections of fuselage all connected together. And as I mentioned, this is just a prototype at the moment. I'm just trying to work out the measurements, how I'm connecting everything together, and then I'll go back afterwards and do the job properly once I've got the parts in that I'm going to need. So yeah, this is just a rough start to begin with. So we've now got the studs on the top and we've got them on the bottom, and how it's worked out is by putting one brick and one plate between the two Technic bricks. It works out that you can connect a Technic brick to it and it squashes it together perfectly, and it's 4 studs wide. Now I don't think you can get any Technic bricks which have got 4 studs on them, or even the Technic beams like this. I might be wrong. I know you can use these parts here, that will work out perfectly. All I need to do is put the Technic pin, which has got the axle end on one end, and then I'll be able to clip those all along there, and then they won't be sticking up as you've got on there. So at least we know that we can now connect the two sections together so that we got studs pointing both directions. So that's mission accomplished on that part. What we're going to be doing with the rear engine mount, we'll put a Technic brick on top, or a normal brick even would work, along with some tiles on there. Reason for the tiles is this is all smooth. That will then just sit on the top of it. I've got the bricks or the studs here and the anti-studs on the bottom, obviously, so I can now build a brick section here to connect it together. Hopefully that's going to line up perfectly, and then what I can do is I can put a Technic beam all the way down there, and that'll hold it all in place as well. So yeah, all coming together nicely. Hopefully this is going to work out okay width wise. I can extend this if I need to, but yeah, the only other thing I am thinking is that on this model here we have got that rear hatch on there, and I'm just wondering whether it would be nice to have that on there. If I do, then I am going to have to amend this just here, but it will be a very similar design to the front, but we'll cross that bridge further down the line. First of all, let's attach that up, and then I can start working on the framework, which is going to house the Technic beam just here. And before I start to build the housing for this section just here, I thought I'd just show you the engine mount mounted to the actual chassis itself, or fuselage itself, sorry. And when I connected this Technic beam on this side, or Technic beams on this side, the whole thing was lifting off of the stud on the other side. However, it did allow me to push it back down and clip the other Technic beams in the other side. So it'll be interesting when I come to do the instructions to see whether or not this is actually a technique that works, or whether it something is being bent or overstressed on there. It shouldn't be, due to the way everything's looking on there, but yeah, I just need to be careful, because also I need to make sure that the instructions work, and that when people go to make this from the instructions, that it is a straightforward building process. But anyway, let's just build a temporary structure for this arm to rest on. And here we have the temporary structure, which is just supporting this lift arm. This won't be here when I do the final build. This is all going to be hollow. So this section here will be supported on the roof. So we're not going to have a problem with that. Now, this here does work. That's all fine. However, this part here seems to be bending quite a lot. So I'm just going to build all the way around it. And then hopefully with a plate on top of this, it's going to stop it from bending, and hopefully it's going to give us a little bit more sturdiness to it, and how to move that arm down the end there with less friction. Now, one thing I am beginning to think is I'm going a little bit too tall with the build so far. This is only prototyping, as I mentioned before, so there are several ways of reducing the height of it. I can reduce this lift arm here, bring it down by as many bricks as I want to do so. That's one way of solving the problem. Another is I could lower this entire engine mount or wing mount down into the chassis more, so I could actually build it into this level just there. So I'm just going to, at this moment in time, I'm just trying to make sure that I've got the technical ability, should I say, of getting the engines to rotate using this technique. Once I've done that, then I'll start fine-tuning the actual size of it. And what I need to do is find an image somewhere, even if it's just a picture off of the TV, and then I can just start measuring different sections of the ship to make sure that it is all in proportion. But anyway, let's build around this arm here and see if it has got enough strength in it to rotate the rear engines. And I think we are on the right track with this technique so far. So I've put this Technic part here which is protruding from the top, which is what we'll be having on the final version. Whether I can disguise it as part of the greebling, I'm not sure, but when you move this, the engines do rotate, and being forced between the plates there does seem to be doing the trick, so that is all good. It's got a little bit of a jolt to it. It's not quite as smooth as I would like. However, I don't know whether or not there's any way around that. You do need to almost give it a good yank to get it to rotate round the full degrees, should I say. So if I do this slowly, just to show you, so there we have it. So that'll be in the flight mode. And as we come round to the landing mode, it's not quite pointing right down, and that's as far as the Technic arm will go. However, if I put it back to there, if I do it really quickly, it's all the way round. So it's just that little bit of whiplash, I suppose, brings it the complete rotation, and it's the same going both ways. So something in here isn't quite moving the full distance. It's not stiff enough, I think, is the problem. What I'm going to be concentrating on in the next update, or starting the next update, will be the front engine mounts. I want to make sure that this technique is going to be working before I start worrying about putting weight on this. If it doesn't work, there's no point carrying on with this particular design, and we'll be back to the drawing board. The problem I'm having with the whole engine mounts, having them all connected, is that this is all very flimsy. There's so many joints on the pieces that it does give way a little bit here and there. So yeah, it's all a massive learning curve, as I mentioned before. Anyway, that's all we have time for. I hope you've enjoyed this update. If you have, please remember to give us a big thumbs up. If you haven't already done so, please consider subscribing to the channel and hit the notification bell so you don't miss any future content on the channel. And if you know anybody else you think could be interested in building a UCS ONYX Cinder in Lego, if you could share the channel with them, it'd be much appreciated. Anyway, thanks for popping on by, and I'll see you next time. Bye for now.